Hi dear friends, this is Bob Hatton. This is The Encourager. Jesus has died. He died about 3 o'clock on that first Good Friday, and Joseph of Arimathea, he went to Pontius Pilate and he asked for the body, for the corpse of Jesus. He wanted to give him a decent burial. Nicodemus, the Pharisee who visited Jesus during the night in John chapter 3, he was also there. There's two men who stood up and said, yeah, we are followers of Jesus. And Pilate, he was a little bit surprised that Jesus was already dead, but he gave Joseph of Arimathea permission to take down his body and to bury him. And Joseph, together with Nicodemus, he took Jesus' body quite quickly because it was a little bit urgent. They didn't want any dead bodies knocking about once the Sabbath have started, and the Sabbath would start when the sun went down. I suppose maybe at 7 o'clock in the evening. So they had to hurry quickly. They buried him, and then the Sabbath started. And on Saturday, the Sabbath continued until the sun went down, but during the night, nothing much could be done. Then on the next day, on the first day of the week, on the Sunday morning, very early, just after the sun had risen, a group of women got together and they wanted to go to the cemetery. They wanted to go to the grave of Jesus, and they wanted to go and serve the dead Jesus. What could you do if Jesus is dead and you still want to serve him? Then you've only got a dead Jesus left. So they're carrying very heavy weights. They're carrying a lot of ointment because they want to anoint his body with various kinds of ointment and lay some spices in various places in the corpse, and just to honor him and just to serve him. That was just a gesture, the last gesture that they could do for the dead Jesus. And as they're on the way, I suppose they're reflecting about everything that has happened, reflecting about what they've experienced with Jesus in the past. And as they get nearer to the cemetery, they realise there's going to be a big problem, because who is going to move the stone in front of the grave, in front of this tomb? There was a huge stone that would stop anybody, man or animal, getting inside the tomb. And it was very, very heavy. And how on earth are these women going to move it? That was a problem for them. But once they arrive at the cemetery, this problem suddenly dissolves. This problem is no longer relevant. Why? Because the stone has been moved, a very heavy stone. It's been moved. What's happening here? And as they look inside the tomb, they're so shocked, because there's a young man sitting where the body should have been, and this young man, it seems to be he's an angel. He says, "You're looking for Jesus of Nazareth. He's not here. He's been raised from the dead. And go and tell your brothers. Go and tell the disciples. They got to go to Galilee and they got to meet him as he told them. He's got an appointment with them. What are they doing hiding away in Jerusalem? They should be on the way to Galilee." The women are so afraid. Of verse 8, it says, and they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. And actually with verse 8, the Gospel of Mark finishes then. I know there are some more verses, but it seems that Mark didn't write these verses. Somebody else added them later, because that unknown person, he must have said, this story can't end here. It can't end here with fear and trembling and astonishment. It can't end. It's got to continue. So that whoever the person was, he added something to that, because the story can't end there. And one thing, he is right. The story can't end there. I think that Mark, he was trying to challenge the readers to come to their own conclusion. I'm sure they knew people who were followers of Jesus. Maybe the first people who were reading this gospel, they were followers of Jesus, and they had heard that Jesus has risen from the dead. Actually, later Paul would write quite a lengthy treatise in chapter 15 of 1 Corinthians, explaining to us why theologically the resurrection is very, very important. Paul says if Jesus hasn't risen from the dead, then our faith is in vain. But this story, it seems to finish here with fear, trembling, astonishment, and the ladies are petrified. But you know, that's not how the story with Jesus ends. That's not how your story with Jesus ends. And if the moment, because perhaps the situation that we're living through with this coronavirus crisis, perhaps you are feeling very much afraid, astonished about what is happening, and trembling somewhere. Let me tell you, your story doesn't end like that, because Jesus, who has started a good work in you, will complete it until the day of Christ. He's not going to leave go of you. And maybe, you know, if you've not yet done it, I invited you yesterday to invite Jesus into your life. Well, you know what happens when Jesus comes into your life? He brings with him the peace of God, because Romans chapter 5 tells us we are now, when we believe in Jesus, we are justified by faith in the blood of Christ, and therefore we have peace with God. And let me read something what also Paul wrote in Philippians chapter 4 about the peace of God. It's kind of a prayer, a blessings, a benediction that he's speaking over the believers in Philippi. And he says, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And I hope you can receive that today, to receive the peace of God for whatever situation you are in. And remember, the story doesn't end with fear, trembling, and astonishment. It goes on. If you don't believe me, you can read the end of Matthew, or you can read the end of John and Luke, and you will see what happens. God bless you. Have a very good day. Your Bob Hatton, your encourager.